This is the Winnie the Pooh You're Braver Than You Believe design. We're going to come in with our base stencil and make sure that your icing is toothpaste-like consistency. You want it to be able to form a peak but kind of curl over at the tip. Make sure that you trace the outline of your shape. This just tacks down those edges, so when you come across and scrape, then no icing will push under. Hold your scraper at about a 45-degree angle to the table and just lightly swipe across. And these little lines that you see kind of forming in this layer aren't that big of a deal. That's just either some dried icing or meringue powder that didn't dissolve all the way. We are going to be frosting this base layer 3 times. So on the first time and the second time, I don't really worry about making sure that the surface is completely flawless because we're just going to be covering it up. You do, however, want to make sure that you are holding your scraper as level to the table as possible. When you peel up your stencils, make sure you anchor on one side, and on the opposite side you'll peel up with a nice smooth motion. Always let your layers dry completely before frosting the next layer. This is going to be our third and final layer for this base layer, and I just created this blue with using a little bit of blue and the tiniest bit of black. The reason I frost 3 layers on this base layer is to create a nice sturdy topper that we can then attach to our cookies and not have to worry about it breaking at all. This next layer is going to be our A1 stencil, and I used red and yellow and black to create the brown because I was out of brown, but if you have brown, that's the way to go. On this one, you really want to make sure that you pay attention to the little piece of plastic by Piglet, and you want to frost starting on that side and frost with that piece of plastic, and then stop halfway so that we don't push underneath the other plastic on the other side. Then you should be able to trace the rest of your design and not have to worry about any of those plastic pieces lifting up because now they're tacked down. Now come in with your scraper tool and you're going to hold it at a 45-degree angle, very lightly scrape across. You want to basically get down to almost a stencil material. That will ensure that it's a thin enough layer so it dries quickly and fully. This next layer is going to be the most involved and intricate layer that you will come across in this design, just because this one has all of the parts and pieces that the rest of the design is going to build on. So you just want to kind of look at this and see like where the branch comes out. You want to tack that down first because that's honestly the only free floating area of this design. The rest, you just want to make sure that you very lightly swipe this icing across. You're not pushing hard. My spatula is at a very extreme angle to the table, making it so that I don't push any of this icing underneath. And when you scrape off, just make sure that you are lightly scraping. You don't want to scrape so far that you see the next color that's underneath through this green icing. And that's it right there. The rest of our design will build off of this layer. Again, make sure that you're allowing each layer to dry fully before you continue to the next layer. This will ensure that you don't have any of your icing stick to this next piece of plastic. I always like to tap my free-floating pieces of plastic down into the little grooves so that they have a less of a chance of lifting up and you get those nice crisp lines. Don't forget the butterfly on this layer. Again, just make sure that you aren't pushing hard and you're holding your spatula at a pretty severe angle to the table. You can see right here that I accidentally scraped too much off where the bucket is. This is because I didn't have my scraper flat enough with the table. So I just added a little bit more icing and then made sure that my scraper was flat. Anchor your stencil on the one side and peel with a smooth motion from the opposite end. If you do find that any icing pushed under, I usually just come in with a toothpick or a cookie scribe and I just kind of scrape it out while it's still wet. Right here I'm adding the eye for Piglet, And you'll find that I've updated the stencils a little bit in what you'll find in the Etsy shop and the Stencil a Month Club. But basically we're only adding Piglet's eye right here because we haven't quite frosted Pooh Bear yet. I let the eye dry just for a few seconds and then I tap it down to ensure that it's fully stuck to that layer. This one is going to be Winnie the Pooh, yellow. And this one I just used yellow and some brown to create this yellow color. And you'll just follow the same process, paying attention to any of the fine details and tacking those down first, and then just lightly swiping across the rest of the design. Once this layer is fully dry, you can add the eye for Winnie the Pooh. And you'll just do the same process where we scrape it on, let it dry for just a little bit, and then you can tap it down if it seems to be pulled up. The reason I do this is because I found during packaging, if I don't tap the eyes down, they do tend to break off. This stick, I just used the same brown, that same dark brown, I just added some white to it to get this lighter brown color. And it's pretty simple, you just do one swipe across, you don't even have to get your scraper tool. It adds a little bit of texture to that branch. Here I'm just making sure that all of my pieces line up and just kind of pushing those small pieces of plastic down into those little holes. And do one nice swipe across. And this is our last detail for this design, just a little white stripe on the bucket. And your topper is done. I usually let this dry at least a few hours before scraping off. That just ensures that I don't accidentally break the topper. Usually I'll let it go overnight just to be on the safe side. But that's it. And you can see how thin these are, even with us doing 3 layers on the base. You can kind of understand why I do those 3 layers at this point, because it is still pretty thin, but it's nice and sturdy. When I attach these to my cookies, I don't worry about making this look perfect or nice because it's just going to be covered up. I just make sure to get as close to the edge as possible because this will give it a nice sturdy icing underneath the edges of your topper, which will help prevent any of your toppers from breaking on those edges. Once you get all of the edges outlined, I just come in and do a nice thick squiggly. When I put this topper on and I press it down, it will help fill in those gaps. You can add a bit more icing if you prefer. Now for the fun part, we are just going to pick up our topper and you want to line up one edge and then just drop it down into place. There is some wiggle room where you can shift this around to get to line up right, but as you push on this, make sure it's a nice even pressure. And then here I just like to swipe off the excess icing on the edges. It just gives it that nice finished look. And there's your Winnie the Pooh design. It's on your cookie, ready to go. I let these dry at least 4 to 5 hours before bagging them, but usually overnight. Thanks for watching.